Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on notifications. Victor Vance. He had always considered himself a man of equilibrium. He worked as a senior internal auditor. A role that required an eye for detail, a lack of sentimentality, and an unwavering commitment to the black and white reality of numbers. He handled his spreadsheets and his risk assessments with the same clinical calmness he brought to his personal life. Married to Camilla for 6 years. He believed they had constructed something durable, a partnership that functioned with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. Camilla, 32 years of age, a public relations executive. She was the variable to his constant. Charismatic, communicative, perpetually wrapped up in high-stakes campaigns that demanded creativity and long, unpredictable work hours. Victor admired her dedication. Or at least, he told himself he did. He viewed her chaotic schedule not as a problem, but as a necessary component of their lifestyle. He never questioned the nights she arrived home past 10 o'clock. The weekends consumed by client galas. The occasional trips to New York. Or Los Angeles. After all, trust was the currency of their relationship. And Victor prided himself on being a man who did not squander his emotional capital on baseless suspicions. Or at least, that was the narrative he maintained. Until that Thursday in March. The day that altered the trajectory of his entire existence. Victor was in his corner office. The city skyline of Chicago, gray and imposing behind him. He was reviewing a fiscal compliance report. The silence of the room broken only by the low hum of the ventilation system. Then, his personal phone buzzed against the mahogany desk. It was a notification from Instagram. A platform he rarely used. A platform he found largely frivolous. The message request came from a user he did not recognize. The profile picture. A generic geometric shape. A void. Where a face should have been. A rational man might have ignored it. A busy man certainly would have. But Victor was a man who investigated discrepancies for a living. When something did not fit the pattern, he was compelled to look. He slid his finger across the screen. The message was blunt. No pleasantries. Just a statement. Cold. And hard. Your marriage is a fabrication. She has been sleeping with her superior for months. If you require evidence, follow this account. Victor's reaction was not the hot flush of panic one might expect. It was a cold tightening of the stomach. A physiological response to a sudden drop in pressure. His first intellectual impulse was dismissal. Who was this individual? Why would a stranger interfere in his domestic affairs? Was this a phishing attempt? A malicious prank, designed to destabilize him? But the seed of doubt did not just land on the surface. It found a crack in the foundation. A crack Victor had ignored for years. He realized, with a sudden clarity, that he had been observing anomalies. Anomalies in Camilla's behavior. For months. But he had chosen not to audit them. The new password on her phone. The way she took calls in the sunroom. With the glass doors shut. The excessive overtime. He had categorized these as work stress. Now, looking at the glowing screen, he realized he might have misclassified the data. He could not live with an open variable. Victor picked up his phone. He did not use his real account. He quickly generated a secondary profile, using a pseudonym and a stock photo of a forest. And he tapped follow. The response was immediate. Automated in its speed. A direct message appeared, containing a cascade of screenshots. Victor leaned back in his ergonomic chair, his face bathed in the blue light of the screen. He began to read. The conversation in the screenshots was between Camilla and a contact saved in her phone simply as S. The content left zero margin for error. Zero for misinterpretation. There were plans to meet at the Street Regis. Declarations of physical desire that Victor had not heard from his wife in 3 years. Carefully timed rendezvous, coordinated around Victor's own schedule. He's working late on the Q3 audit tonight. I can get away by 8. One message from Camilla read. I'll have the room key ready. Don't keep me waiting. The reply came. Victor read every line. Twice. He analyzed the timestamps. He cross-referenced them mentally, with his own calendar. March 4th, February 12th, January 28th. Dates where he had sat at home, eating a reheated dinner, believing his wife was securing a contract for her firm. He did not cry. He did not throw the phone. Instead, Victor felt a distinct snap within his chest, like a dry twig breaking under a heavy boot. It was the sound of the contract being voided. He was not the type of man who waited. He did not hold on to suspicions to leverage them later. He did not believe in working things out when the terms of the agreement had been so flagrantly violated. Victor operated on immediate resolution. If an asset was toxic, you liquidated it. If a system was compromised, you shut it down. He pulled up their shared digital calendar. He checked Camilla's schedule for the evening. It was marked in blue. Client dinner, The Loop, 8 p.m. He felt the irony burn in his throat, like acid. How many of these blue blocks on the calendar were legitimate? How many times had she looked him in the eye, straightened his tie, kissed his cheek, and lied? The deception was not just a betrayal of love. It was an insult to his intelligence. Victor stood up, put on his suit jacket, and adjusted his cuffs. He walked out of his office without informing his secretary. He had an investigation to complete. Victor drove his black sedan, moving through the congested streets of the city. His destination was not home, not yet. He drove to the law offices of Elias Thorne, a corporate litigator, a man who understood that emotions had no place in legal proceedings. Elias was surprised by the unscheduled arrival, but ushered Victor into his glass-walled office. Victor Saturday. He placed his phone on the desk, displaying the screenshots. "I need to know my standing," Victor said. His voice devoid of tremor. Elias reviewed the images, his expression unreadable. "Are you certain you want to initiate this protocol today, Victor? Sometimes, in the heat of the moment, we make decisions that are inefficient. Perhaps a cooling off period?" Victor shook his head. A sharp, mechanical motion. "No, Elias. The contract is breached. Ending. I need to know the full extent of the liability. What do I do?" Elias sighed. "Legally, these screenshots are a starting point. But they are from a third party. They could be challenged as fabricated. If you want a divorce that is absolute, one that protects your assets and leaves no room for negotiation, you need the source material. You need direct access to the correspondence. Emails. Booking confirmations. Metadata." Victor nodded. It was a logical requirement. "I have access to her laptop at home. We share passwords. We have always maintained a policy of transparency." He paused, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. "Or so I believed." He thanked his friend and left. He drove home with a cold determination that frightened him less than the emptiness he felt. The house was dark when he arrived. Camilla was still at her office. Or perhaps she was already with him. Victor entered the house. The silence was heavy. He went straight upstairs to the master bedroom. Her laptop, a sleek silver machine, sat on the writing desk in the corner. He opened it. The screen flared to life. The password prompt blinked. He typed in the 6 digits. 1014118. Their wedding date. October 14th, 2018. He felt a pang of bitterness as he pressed enter. The numbers seemed like a cruel joke now. A code to a safe that had already been looted. He logged into her email client. He ignored the work inbox. He went straight to the folder structure. He scanned the list. Envois. Recette. Family. And there, buried under a subfolder labeled Project Beta, was a folder that seemed out of place. He clicked it. Inside were dozens of email threads. The sender was Sebastian Sterling. Victor knew the name. Sebastian, the managing partner at Camilla's firm. Victor had met him twice at holiday parties. He remembered a firm handshake and a gaze that lingered too long. Victor opened the first email. It started professionally. Then, the tone shifted. A lunch invitation. A drink after work. Then, the precipice. I can't stop thinking about the way you looked in that red dress, Sebastian had written. I shouldn't be reading this, Camilla had replied, 6 months ago. But tell me more. Victor scrolled through the timeline of the affair. It was documented in high definition. Hotel reservations. Flight confirmations for a conference in Miami. There were photos. Selfies in mirrors. Photos of them together in bed. Laughing. Victor felt a wave of nausea. But he suppressed it. He reached into his pocket and produced a high-capacity USB drive. He inserted it into the port. He began to copy everything. Every email. Every photo. Every itinerary. He was archiving the destruction of his marriage. He then moved to the synchronized cloud photos. He found more. Images of Sebastian's hand on her leg. Under a table. It was thorough. It was indisputable. Victor printed the most damning images on the laser printer in his home office. The hum of the printer was the only sound in the house. He placed the stack of warm paper into a large manila envelope. He organized them chronologically. He was building a dossier. He checked the time. 7:15. She would be home soon. To change. Before her, dinner. Resin. Victor sat on the edge of the bed. The envelope resting on his knees. He controlled his breathing. In. For 4 seconds. Hold. For 4 seconds. Out. For 4 seconds. He turned off the lights in the room, leaving only the hallway lamp on. Casting a long shadow across the floor. He waited. He was not a husband anymore. He was a judge. Waiting for the defendant to arrive. At 7:42, the front door opened. Victor heard the distinct click of the lock. The rustle of a coat. The sound of heels on hardwood. Victor? Camilla's voice drifted up the stairs. Cheerful. Light. Are you home? I saw your car. Victor did not answer. He remained motionless. A statue. Carved from ice. Camilla walked up the stairs. She entered the bedroom, flipping the light switch. She started when she saw him. Sitting on the bed. Fully dressed. Staring at the wall. God, you scared me, she laughed, breathless. She tossed her bag onto the armchair. She looked vibrant. Her cheeks flushed. Her eyes bright. Why are you sitting in the dark? Rough day with the auditors? She walked to the closet, unzipping her dress. I have to be quick. The client dinner got pushed to 8:30, but traffic is a nightmare. Sebastian is already freaking out about the table reservation. The mention of his name made Victor's jaw tighten. He kept his voice flat. Sebastian is worried about the table. You know how he is, Camilla said, stepping out of her dress. She stood in her lingerie, a set of black lace Victor recognized. He had bought it for her. For their anniversary. She grabbed a robe. I'm going to jump in the shower. 5 minutes. Do you want to order sushi? I can eat something light before I go. No, Victor said. Camilla paused. Sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Are you okay? You seem distant. Victor lifted the envelope. He held it with both hands, presenting it like a verdict. Before you shower. Before you leave. Endo. You need to review this. Camilla frowned. What is it? Work papers. Open it, Victor commanded. His voice was not loud. But it carried a weight that made the air in the room feel heavy. Camilla hesitated. She walked over. She took the envelope. She opened the metal clasp. She pulled out the stack of papers. The first photo was on top. Grainy, but clear enough. Camilla and Sebastian, kissing in the parking garage of the Langham Hotel. Camilla froze. It was as if the oxygen had been sucked out of her lungs. Her face drained of color instantly, turning a sickly shade of gray. Her hands began to tremble. The papers rattling like dry leaves. She flipped to the next page. A screenshot of a text message. I love the way you taste. The next. An email confirmation for a suite. The envelope slipped from her fingers. The photos scattered across the floor. A mosaic of her betrayal. Victor, she whispered. A strangled sound. Where did you get these? Victor let out a dry, joyless sound. It was technically a laugh, but contained no humor. The source is irrelevant, Camilla. The data is accurate. Or are you going to attempt to tell me these are falsified? Camilla opened her mouth. She closed it. Tears began to well up in her eyes, spilling over rapidly. I can explain. Victor stood up. He crossed his arms. He looked down at her with an expression of clinical detachment. Explain. Excellent. Intimo. Then please, explain to me how you ended up planning to sleep with your boss in the exact same hotel suite where we spent our honeymoon? Was it a cost-saving measure? Or perhaps a sentimental tribute to history? No, Camilla sobbed. She reached out for him, but he took a precise step back, maintaining a contamination zone. Victor, please. It's not simple. I was confused. Sebastian, it just happened. It was a mistake. Insects. A mistake. Victor repeated, tasting the word. A mistake is a calculation error. A mistake is forgetting to file a receipt. This is a campaign. You planned it. You executed it. You maintained it. For 8 months. I was lonely. She screamed, the facade cracking completely. You're always so cold, Victor. You're always working. Always judging everything. Sebastian, he listened to me. He made me feel alive. I didn't know how to stop it. You didn't want to stop it. Victor corrected her. I read the messages, Camilla. I can't wait. I need you. Those are not the words of a victim. Those are the words of a willing participant. I love you, she cried, dropping to her knees amidst the photos. I still love you. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll quit the job. I'll never see him again. Please, Victor. Don't throw 6 years away. Victor looked at her. He saw the tears. The desperation. Our resin. Victor sat on the edge of the bed, the envelope resting on his knees. He controlled his breathing. In. For 4 seconds. Hold. For 4 seconds. Out. For 4 seconds. He turned off the lights in the room, leaving only the hallway lamp on, casting a long shadow across the floor. He waited. He was not a husband anymore. He was a judge, waiting for the defendant to arrive. At 7:42, the front door opened. Victor heard the distinct click of the lock, the rustle of a coat. I have already instructed Elias. I have copied everything. The divorce petition will be filed at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Camilla wailed, a sound of pure despair. No, no, no. You have until Sunday to vacate the premises. Victor continued, relentless. And there is one more variable you should be aware of. He looked her in the eye. I have sent a digital copy of this dossier to the Human Resources Department at your firm, and to the Board of Directors. A part of him, a distant, buried part, felt a pulse of pain. But the auditor in him took over. The risk was too high. The asset was compromised. Love? Victor asked softly. You do not understand the definition of the word. Someone who loves you does not construct a parallel life. You made a choice, Camilla. Every time you walked into those hotels, you chose him. And now, I am making a choice. He walked to the dresser and picked up a folder he had prepared earlier. You and Sebastian can navigate the consequences together. He grabbed his overnight bag, which he had packed while she was in the shower. Where are you going? She gasped. To a hotel, Victor said, opening the door. Because I cannot sleep in a bed that has been paid for with lies. I will return tomorrow to collect more belongings. Ensure you are not in my way. He walked out of the room, leaving her kneeling in the wreckage of her own making. He closed the door firmly behind him. Victor did not sleep well that night, but he slept. He stayed at a Marriott 3 miles away. The room was sterile, standard, and exactly what he needed. The next 3 days were a blur of logistical execution. Victor moved through them with the efficiency of a machine. He communicated with Camilla only through text messages, and only regarding the logistics of the house. V. Movers will arrive on Saturday at 9. Ensure your personal effects are boxed. C. Victor, please, can we just talk? V. No. He did not answer her calls. He blocked her number when she persisted. On Friday morning, the bomb he had planted at her firm detonated. Victor did not need to be there to see it. He understood the mechanics of corporate policy. He had sent the evidence anonymously, but the detail was too specific to be ignored. He went to work as usual. He audited spreadsheets. He sat in meetings. His colleagues noticed he was quieter than usual. Perhaps a bit sharper in his critiques. But no one suspected his world had collapsed. Or rather, that he had actively demolished it. He returned to the house on Sunday. It was empty. Camilla had left. The silence was different now. Not the heavy silence of secrets, but the hollow silence of absence. He walked through the rooms. She had taken her clothes, her books, her chaotic collection of art supplies. She had left the furniture. She had left the wedding photos on the mantel. A relationship between a managing partner and a direct report is a violation of corporate governance. It is a liability. Camilla's eyes went wide with horror. The crying stopped, replaced by shock. You didn't. Victor, you couldn't. That will destroy me. It will destroy. Sebastian, you should have conducted a risk assessment before you engaged in the behavior, Victor said coldly. Do not involve me in the fallout. And drank it neat. Then he opened his laptop and began to work on the next week's audit schedule. Life required continuity. In the weeks that followed, the chaos Victor had anticipated came to pass for Camilla. He heard the details through the grapevine of their mutual social circle, which was rapidly fracturing. The HR investigation at Camilla's firm was swift and brutal. Confronted with the undeniable proof, the company had to act. However, corporate survival instincts kicked in. Sebastian Sterling was a revenue generator. He was a managing partner. Camilla Vance was a replaceable executive. According to the rumors, Sebastian had turned on her. In the closed-door hearing, he claimed that Camilla had pursued him. He claimed he was going through a difficult time personally, and had succumbed to her persistent advances. He framed himself as the victim of a predatory subordinate. It was a lie, of course. Victor had read the emails. Sebastian had been the aggressor. But power protects power. Sebastian received a formal censure. He was stripped of his annual bonus. He kept his job. Camilla was not so fortunate. She was offered a choice: resign with a meager severance package, or be fired for cause. She resigned. The humiliation was total. She had lost her husband, her home, her lover, and her career. In the span of 14 days, Victor felt a grim sense of validation when he heard this. He did not feel happy. But he felt that the equation had balanced out. Actions had reactions. Inputs had outputs. Camilla moved into a small apartment in a less desirable part of the city. Mutual friends, forced to choose sides, largely drifted toward Victor. He was the stable one. The victim, who held his head high. Victor threw himself into his reconstruction. He expanded his portfolio. He started going to the gym at 5 a.m. every morning. He updated his wardrobe. I have already instructed Elias. I have copied everything. The divorce petition will be filed at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Camilla wailed. A sound of pure despair. No, no, no. You have until Sunday to vacate the premises. Victor continued, relentless. And there is one more variable you should be aware of. He looked her in the eye. I have sent a digital copy of this dossier to the Human Resources Department at your firm, and to the Board of Directors. It was a vulnerability. He was rebuilding. He was winning. October arrived, bringing with it a chill wind off Lake Michigan. It had been 8 months since the Thursday of the notification. Victor was at a high-end grocery store, selecting organic produce. He was dressed in a cashmere sweater and dark denim. The picture of a successful, composed man. He was checking the firmness of an avocado when he saw her. Camilla. She was in the frozen food aisle. She looked diminished. That was the only word Victor could find. The vibrant, polished woman. Gone. Replaced by this ghost. In a gray oversized sweater. Her hair, usually a glossy curtain, was pulled back in a messy, utilitarian bun. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights. She was pushing a cart. It contained a frozen pizza, a bottle of cheap wine, and cat food. Victor watched her for a moment. He felt a flicker of something. Shock, perhaps. At how steep her decline had been. She looked up. Her eyes met his. She froze. Her grip on the cart handle tightened until her knuckles were white. She looked terrified. And then, incredibly, she looked hopeful. She took a tentative step toward him. Victor? Her voice was softer than he remembered. Broken. Victor nodded once. A polite, minimal gesture. Camilla. She swallowed hard. She looked at his clothes. His healthy complexion. The full basket of quality food. Then she looked down at her own cart. The shame radiated off her in waves. You look good, she stammered. I am, Victor said simply. I am doing very well. That's good. I'm glad. She shifted her weight. She looked like she wanted to say 1,000 things. Apologize. Scream. Beg. I think about you. A lot. Victor looked at her. He thought about the emails. The hotel rooms. The lies. He searched his internal landscape for anger. For hatred. For love. He found nothing. There was only a vast, flat plain of indifference. She was no longer a variable in his life. She was just a closed file. An old audit report. Stored in the basement. I have to go, Victor said. Elena is waiting for me. The mention of the name hit Camilla like a physical blow. Her face crumpled. Oh. You're seeing someone. Goodbye, Camilla, Victor said. He turned his cart. And walked away. He did not look back. He did not need to see her crying in the frozen food aisle. He did not need to witness the ruin she had brought upon herself. As he walked to the checkout counter, Victor loaded his groceries onto the belt. He paid with his platinum card. He walked out into the crisp autumn air. He felt light. He had survived the crash. He had purged the corruption. He had balanced the books. Camilla stood in the aisle for a long time, shivering in the cold air of the freezer section. Victor took a trash bag and walked room to room. The wedding photos went inside. The small trinkets she had bought him went inside. He cleared the space of her data. When he was finished, he sat in the living room. He felt a strange sensation in his chest. It wasn't regret. It was the phantom pain of an amputated limb. He knew it was necessary to cut it off to survive the infection. But the loss was still a biological fact. He opened a bottle of scotch. Poured one glass.